Spence. Let's get going.
Tanya, it is so great to have you on. I've known you for what, about 100 years, and you've morphed into this amazing, high level, coach, and I want to, really start off by, I didn't even realize, but Dr. Terry reminded me that this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and you're like the perfect person to have on here. So, with that said, you specialize in self mastery, emotional intelligence, and operating at peak performance regardless of what life throws at you. And I know that life has thrown a lot at all of us. So, let's talk about mental blocks to start with. That face both both our youth and even older business professionals. What are your thoughts about some of the biggest mental blocks we face?
Well, it depends on like what exactly you define as like a mental block. Is it overwhelm? Is it mental paralysis? Is it having a panic attack? Because I've had to be on some coaching calls this week with some of my seven-figure business owners. We're like, I don't know if I can handle all these responsibilities. And I like to start off with this. It really shifted. I call them mindset resets. It really shifted my mindset. I don't know if you guys have heard the quote before, but it's like, with great power comes great responsibility. You heard of that one? But what
Spider-Man.
I recently heard was with great responsibility comes great power. And with the blocks, a lot of times, like more so what I help people with is giving them healthy, sustainable tools, like a toolbox, when they're going through some form of a block. And a lot of times, like I said, there's so many pieces to this. If we can like narrow it down to one, but I'll give you a specific case scenario of what happened this week because I just had to coach somebody through it. But as elite entrepreneurs, because that's more so the niche market that I specialize in, you have to perform. So I say like entrepreneurs or athletes. I mean, any career you decide to go in, you're an athlete. You decide what level you want to play at and how far you want to go and what position you want to play and what you want to do with it. You still have to perform. So whatever you're going through, one of the things, for example, this case scenario, she was having a breakdown, like a total mental breakdown. And I've gone through them, so I know how to guide through it. I was giving her a few tools. It wasn't working. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like EFT, emotional freedom technique, or, like the tapping. Wasn't working. I was seeing like her breath was getting deeper. I was like, okay, you need to pull over. Number one, stop driving. Do not drive during these situations. Take 5 minutes. Because you're like, I can't take a break. I can't take a break. I was like, pull over. So she pulls over. I was like, okay, I want you to scream as loud as you can. We're going to do 3 primal screamings. And she's like, okay, let me move the car because I'm right next to somebody.
Oh
And
my
I'm
God.
probably going to freak them out. And I've done that too. I'm like, hold on. I'm like a hot mess. I'm like, okay, let me park somewhere else first. And then and she's like, because you're like, what tool do I use for what I'm going through? Sometimes you gotta just scream. I mean, there's a reason it's called primal screaming. So she's 3, and then I'm like, okay, you can breathe now. Then we're gonna do the EFT. Then we're gonna start to regulate our breathing. But it's like there's so much buildup that you feel like you're gonna pass out. So it depends on the block and how long you've allowed that layer to happen for that type of a buildup in a healthy way versus just popping medication and because she was driving to a job. It's time to execute. Like you can't just stop or
Oh
put it
my
on the back burner.
gosh.
You're dealing with like 6, 7 figure, deals. And then went in, handled her business, like did that. But I know I went on, but that was just like a real life example of one case scenario of an extreme because I know people are feeling like they can't handle that power with all that responsibility that they have.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Real
I
life.
I'm glad you said this because there was a time in my life where I just buried my face in the pillow and screamed at the top of my lungs, and the
Yeah.
next day people go, "Are you? Why are you hoarse? What did you go to like an event or something?" No, I screamed in my pillow,
But think
but
about that too, though. Think about that too. Why do we need to cover our mouth?
Bad
Why,
breath.
and why do we need to shut down? Why do we need to shut down? Because even the same thing too, like people will suppress their emotions
Mhm.
with food, alcohol, substance
Mhm.
abuse, and
Mhm.
it's okay, but it's not okay. And we have
Mhm.
to realize that our feelings are valid, our emotions are valid, and we can do it without shutting up, without shutting down, and without having to
Mhm.
cover our mouth and pretend that it doesn't
Mhm.
exist. And I think we live in such a great time where it's more acceptable and it's encouraged to be vulnerable, because vulnerability, and especially in our men, like for our men, I love that you guys are having this
Mhm.
show to have
Mhm.
conversation about this,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of stigma around it, that there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of
Mhm.
shame, and I did a post the other day about shame, and the reason why people hide is because of shame. The reason why people are having anxiety attacks is because of shame, depression because of shame. So what is the core of behind our behaviors and how we move and how we act and how we show up or how we don't show up? Because all of that impacts our performance in
Totally.
business, in life,
Wow.
in our relationships.
You know, it's really interesting you brought up the primal scream because Stephen Coulter, he's one of the leading human performance guys. He works a lot
Mm,
with Huberman and all that, and he talks about if you're at this physical block of fear, and he uses skiing as analysis. And I actually tried it last weekend. I went to a run that terrifies me, and
mm,
I just stood at the top and I screamed as loud as I could. And within seconds, I felt great, and I went into it, and I probably skied the best I've ever skied. And it was one of these really cool little things that him and Huberman been talking about with neuroplasticity, about
mm.
the primal scream is a great way to get certain chemicals in the brain to break past fear. So it's really interesting you brought it up for an executive driving to something in their car, because it is great. And I agree with you. Don't cover it up. You let it out and you scream like you're in a cave from caveman days. And it was
Mhm.
amazing how it changed my whole perception in seconds. It was great.
Mhm.
So I'm
and
glad you
and
brought
how
that up.
you're performing, because it's like you can't just stop what you're doing, and like with more power, with more responsibility, the higher level you want to play at life, the higher level you want to play in business, you have to know how to move through it, not um, move through it, because the only way out is through, as fast as possible,
Mm.
because it's performance. And I
Mhm.
asked a post the other day on my Facebook. I'm like, can you fake performance? It was interesting to see like what people were saying, because some people really think you can fake performance. I'm like, you can't fake energy.
Mm. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you got to move out of it as fast as possible and be able to be mentally sharp and equipped with some healthy tools that are gonna, like, you can get back in the game.
Speaking of healthy tools,
Yes.
let me give you a scenario. You're ready to walk into a board meeting that you are leading, and you're stressed out and you're not in a place where you could scream your lungs out. Any other suggestions?
I mean, technically, you can do whatever you want, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Now the consequences, on the other
So might be.
hand. So it's something I do with people. Like, I help them with overcoming like self-sabotage. I'm like, listen, the understanding the rebellious side of you is so important, because you befriend it, and like you can do whatever you want, but like, are you okay with the outcome, which are the consequences? But getting back to your question, you could scream if you want, but you have to understand the consequence. However, some of my favorite tools for that type of situation, because I am like a student as well as a teacher, and I've been through really extreme things in life, without numbing myself, without hurting myself or hurting others. And there are certain times where you do have to take a healthy time out, because the what I have my clients think of, and how I think in my mind, is what is it going to cost me to not take just a 5-minute bathroom break? Bathroom, nobody's going to question you to go to the bathroom. So I'll go to the bathroom, and I've done this at airports before as well. And if I'm having like anxiety, or if I'm feeling super overwhelmed, or if I'm like really so much in my head, I always come back to my heart, The heart has its own way of regulating the nervous system. They teach a lot of this in yoga. And yoga, if anything, just means a union with your most elite self, with your higher self, with the superconscious. And so if you're able to regulate your breath, you're able to calm your heart rate. And so I'll just take 5 grounding breaths. And if you guys want to do it with me, what they look like, I'm really big on showing, not just talking about it, but showing.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
what we do is we breathe in through the heart and exhale. So it's like a poof. So an inhale and an exhale. Good, but breathe in through the heart. Inhale. Exhale. And inhale. Exhale. And one more. And exhale. And then I'll just take it a step further because that took 30 seconds or so. And then I'll do something where you'll extend your pointer and your thumb. But this is how it's supposed to be done, but this confuses too many people. So if you confuse them, you lose them. So let's just keep it super simple. And you plug the right nostril and you exhale through the left. And you inhale through the left. Plug and hold. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Plug and hold. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Plug and hold. And I'll do 5 of them, but for today we'll just do 2. And then we tuck our chin into our chest, so we cut off the vagus nerve. And we go into something called sensory withdrawal. And you hold your breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And typically I'll just do the nostril breath for as many as I need to regulate my nervous system. And something for viewers listening is when you are in a negative state in thought, you're powerless. And so if you remember these key things, like I'm powerless, I don't have time to not take a time out to get my energy right. You're in your most powerful state when you're in a calm state of energy. So I do whatever I got to do, especially when I'm about to perform, whether if I'm getting on stage to speak, if I have a client session, if I'm about to go into a room and to be around a lot of people, it's still presenting to show up as my best self. I need to make sure that my energy is really on point. And that's just a very simple way to quickly just excuse yourself, go to the bathroom. 5, those are grounding breaths, heart center grounding breath, nostril breaths, and then closing off that vagus nerve so you're able to regulate the nervous system in the fastest, simplest way possible.
Wow. Thank you.
That was
Welcome.
Thank you for giving tools. I when I was doing the simple initial breath, I really did feel myself relax because I get really keyed up for these things,
Mm-hmm. That's why you brought me on. You're like, oh, James, you calm us down.
Right? Yeah. Calm us down. That's great. You consider yourself a business coach or a lifestyle coach?
It's interesting because I have a lot of high-end achievers come to me because they see that their peers have 10x their business profit margins. And they're like, so I need you to help me with the infrastructure. I was like, okay, I help you. So I call executive coaching. I help you become mentally, physically, emotionally healthy and strong AF, because I want the edgies. I want the edgy people. AF, so you can look, feel, and show up in your business and your life as your best self. So I work with teaching people how to master self. So when you are able to get and operate from your super conscious and you have all the tools to equip you, you then, of course, are going to excel in business. So everything, my core thing of what I'm trying to get out to people is business is an extension of you. So when you get you solid and you tighten up and you put in your mental reps, your emotional reps, your spiritual reps, your physical reps, everything else is going to get stronger and more impactful because it's an extension and a representation of you.
How do
So
you?
business does get impacted.
That's great. So the core, got to
Mm-hmm.
get the core healthy before you can blossom and flourish. Um, what now? How do you feel about self-sabotage or people that sabotage? I mean, their goals and their successes, and if you have a personal story about
Yeah, of course.
self-sabotage,
I
I
mean,
mean, we
we
all
go
do.
way back, Doc. So you know me and my
Yeah.
story. You see me through all my different hair colors like the tree.
Yeah.
You know, like my hair's been Fruit Looped. It's been red. It's been black. It's been brown. Now it's blonde. You saw all my seasons. It's been that long.
and
Tara
and I,
just getting
and
to know
I
each other.
Yeah.
So you know, let me introduce myself now. Um, Self sabotage, I know like a very close friend. We call that in my line of work when you really get to the core of things. One thing I can say is I've always seek the truth, and I love spreading the truth. So until I'm certain on what I'm talking about, I'm not going to just go and rampage on something that I'm not clear is actually the core of whatever it is that we're you know, like struggling with or what we get massive success on. And self sabotage is also known, which I think is becoming more of a mainstream word now, which I'm really happy about, is called shadow work. Have you guys heard of shadow work?
Mm-mm.
no, no.
So, our shadow is our subconscious traits, their personality traits. So, it's learned behaviors where we would call like self sabotage, or the parts of us that we just don't like, we're embarrassed about, we're ashamed about. We judge, we get angry about thinking about those past versions of ourselves that are like really messed up our future, you know, or those relationships, and we're just like beating ourselves up, like all that parts. And so, we have the dark, that's our dark side, and we have our light side. But it's kind of goes back to the story of two wolves. Have you guys heard of that story of two wolves, where it's like a Cherokee Indian? For those of you listening, I'll just share it real fast, like super quick. But you can look it up too, where he was explaining to his grandson that there's a story between two wolves. One wolf is angry, it's bitter, it's jealous, it's hate, it's sad, it's all these things, all this self-sabotage. It's an addict, it's a, you know, all these things. And then there's a wolf that's kind, compassionate, it has grace, it has empathy, it is just like, you know, doing good in the world, shedding light, peace. And every day these two wolves are just going at it at battle every day. And he just stops, and the grandson's like, well, Grandpa, which wolf wins? He goes, the wolf you feed. So every single day, it's not that our dark doesn't exist anymore just because we do our growth work, or we've like learned new tools and we're putting in the reps, kind of like our body, right? Like our workouts, or like having healthy teeth, or just being healthy. It's a daily practice of putting in those repetitions, and then it's just that version of you gets stronger. So when I'm talking to clients, I'm like, listen, that version of you is just going to be a lot stronger because you've been operating life on autopilot for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. And that part is just going to have a lot more reps. So it's going to be harder because now you're starting to feed the other wolf. And it's going to take a little bit of time for that part of you to become more of the dominant. It's not that they both coexist, but you decide every single day when you wake up which one is going to run the show.
How do you? How would you, if you see yourself feeding the nasty wolf, which I know that well.
We all do.
We all do.
What do you? How do you interrupt the pattern? I mean, what would you do? What would you suggest to people? How
Yeah.
would you suddenly decide? Because you get caught up in the shit. So
Yeah.
how would you decide? Suddenly go, whoa, 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 you know, go.
Ready? Go perform, Tanya. It's cool. I love it. I played ice hockey for 9 years, so I'm all about it. Since I was younger, I'm like, let's go, game time. Ready? Go. Okay, so pattern disruptions, kind of like what you just did to me.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Terry, I don't think he told you. I'm pretty sharp too. Like,
I love you already. This is.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting back and watching the show. This is great.
yeah, we have the best time. We have the best time.
Oh, I
So,
can tell.
The best pattern, I mean, there's not the best, it's the best of what you're going to integrate right now in this season of your life. And one thing to understand is nothing is permanent. So I just want to start there. That's why I feel if you think about, we'll use exercise for an example, there's so many different ways to work out. You've got bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, mobility work, Pilates, like all these different ways of strengthening the body weight stuff, bands, dumbbells, and like you decide based on where you're starting and what level you're at, what you feel like you're going to use on a daily basis. So let's just start there, okay? Because that, I think, just to kind of like understand, there's many tools that are very helpful. Terry, you mentioned about like creating new neuroplasticity, right? One of my favorites, and it's so simple, is a daily journaling practice. I've been studying Dr. Joe Dispenza for a while. I've gone through his walking meditations. I actually practice them every single week, and I do a meetup with a group. But one of my favorite, most simplest things that you can do at anywhere at any point of time, and this is a non-negotiable that I have when I work with my clients, is number one, we start with daily wins. So like you start to reprogram, like what are you doing right? What are you doing right? Because we can put so much emphasis. I like to say, like, if you focus on red, your attention goes on red, your focus goes on red. And then you kind of get into that rabbit hole of what red is. But if you know that red isn't serving you anymore in this season of your life, it's self sabotage, or it's drinking alcohol, or you're popping pills, you're overeating, or you're, whatever these traits are, going to the strip clubs and pornography, like doing bumps, like all these things are just, those are also tools, because at the end of the day, we're using all these tools to help us find relief from our pain. And so if you find something that's going to help you, the daily journaling will help just give you a self-realization and a safe space to be honest. So before self-awareness comes self-honesty, and a lot of people aren't even honest. So how can you be aware of something you're not honest about? So if you write your daily wins, you start to build yourself up before you get into the pain points. Then you get into your challenges. What are you challenged with for the day? Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually challenged. I kind of like to break them into subcategories. And then if you could go back in time in the day, because if even in addiction centers, all they do is they have them just focus on today. Like win today, here's a task, like just win today. That's all you have to focus in on. And then tomorrow's going to happen, but just focus on today. Your reframes of creating the new neuroplasticity is to go back and to be like, okay, if I could go back and I can, like, this is a movie and this can have the desired outcome. Earlier in the conversation, we talked about the consequence, and this could have the desired outcome, the way where I could feel proud of myself versus beating myself up and being disappointed. How would that have gone? But the key is to write it as if it happened. Not I should have, or I would have, or next time I would have, because those are all still self breaking down, self critical things. The only way to create a new neural pathway is to write it as if it happened in the present tense, as if it was a win. And then you end with your intentions, or people call them affirmations, ideal positive statements. Those are also known as autosuggestion. I'm doing a book club right now, Think and Grow Rich, but it's like the updated version. So they talk a lot about like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mary Kay and all these like legendary people still in this lifetime. And they're talking a lot about autosuggestion, which is the same as like the reframing and stuff like that. So that's one way to do it. Is just a very simple exercise. It literally takes you 5 minutes just to audit your day, audit your behavior, create more self-awareness, and to start there. As well as what's really going to happen with the mind is, of course, I'm going to say exercise. Like there's so much power within starting to take care of your body.
So let me ask you a question. When you do this, you said you look at your day. Is this something you have your morning meeting with yourself in the first thing in the morning and you write this stuff down, or is this something at the end of the day you evaluate how your day went?
I love this question. I actually was interviewed in a magazine last week, and she was like fighting me on this. I was like getting ready to fight somebody. I told her before the morning is a night. So our nighttime impacts the next 24 hours of our day. I personally, and most of my clients really love doing this at night because it's a self-reflection of the day. And it also has a positive impact on your sleep. Because if you take yesterday's like anger, sadness, judgment, shame, guilt, like throughout the nighttime, you're also programming your subconscious. It's a very vulnerable time for reprogramming, last thing at night and first thing in the morning. So, like I said, I always like to go back to the core, the root of something. Like, where are the roots? Do we need to replant the roots? Nighttime is really, I feel, the best placement. And I had this conversation in one of my live streams, is you could have all the right steps in the wrong sequence and not get the most impactful outcome. It's just because they're in the wrong sequence. So I
So
personally love it at night, but I mean, you can try both and see what resonates with you.
So if you had somebody that likes to have that, they get up early, like Spencer, I know is up really early, but they get up early and they have I call it the morning meeting. You know, you look at your day and you kind of set up your day and you kind of ease into it. Is that something you would set like your goals for the day and then you reevaluate it at the evening and you write down how you did? Or could you have a morning meeting and an evening meeting, or would you just prefer the evening evaluation?
Yeah. That's a great question, and I think it's more of an individual thing. I highly recommend that. I like to take my year into sprints, and I'll have like a month of a reassessing, restructure, reevaluating month, and I'm in it right now. So if I'm trying to establish new habits, a new framework, and new behaviors, I'll give myself about like 21, 30 days to figure out where the placement is. For example, at night I would do my brain dump and I would do my goals at night, and then I would like look at them in the morning. But what I realized is it actually was stimulating my brain to start thinking about projects, ideas. So I was like, okay, I have to leave that for the morning time, because it started actually waking me up, and then it was impacting my sleep. So just pay attention to like if your brain starts going super fast, because the ideal for the nighttime is to like get things out of your system so you can rest in peace, literally. And then when you wake up, you also don't want to, you want to kind of like, I kind of look at it as like a pyramid. Nighttime, you want to start with the most active to the least active, be able to sleep in a good space, and then like least active to most active, kind of like a V. For me personally, what I found best for me in this season of my life, based on the responsibilities that I've taken on, is I like to do my brain dump at night and then leave the brain dump for the morning to prioritize tasks that into like a 1, 2, and a 3. A 1 is like, I absolutely, for me to go to bed tonight, need to get this done so I can be proud of myself. 2 means it could be done in the next few days, and 3, it could be done like at the end of the week. And so I'm very like but that's how my brain works. So I think it's also understanding your brain, and that's a big part of self mastery, is really like knowing yourself, and you know, of course, having a coach, having a mentor, having somebody that's going to be able to guide you so you can understand things. Did I like answer your question? So it's
Yeah, that
kind
was
of
brilliant.
like
Thank you.
it's kind of like just like a self assessment, but also maybe it'll work. You know, you're not going to know. And here's the thing to you guys, you're never going to know unless you give yourself an experience. Knowledge stems from experience. If you just are going things based on, oh, well, should I put it here? Should I put it there? Who cares? Just do it. Do it and see how you feel after you do it, or what gets brought up. And then if it didn't belong in that nighttime, then put it in the morning, or put the morning into the nighttime, and just also see where it's going to stick. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm really big on examples. When I first started to get into the daily practice of meditation, I never succeeded with I never was consistent with a morning routine. It might have been like 2 to 3 times a week. For whatever reason, it just wasn't sticking when I first started my practice in a very beginning level season of my life. Okay, now I meditate 2 to 3 times a day, do hour walking meditations, but this is like the very beginning of instilling a new behavior, something that I really knew was going to be important for the like long game. And what I found was, because everybody's talking about morning, 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 I was like, morning is just not working for me right now. So let me try to put it at night, because I know I think I could be pretty consistent at night. So my night routine was solid for a whole year. I didn't skip a beat. Sometimes I skip it. I was like, oh, I'm never skipping that again. That is a non-negotiable. I can feel the impact. How I woke up in the morning, waking up with peace versus anxiety. Like those little things make such a huge impact when you really start to pay attention. And so then once I got my night routine solid, then I was like, actually, I want to add a morning part. But first, the morning was not successful. So I surrendered to it. And then I was like, okay, well, this is what's going to work for me in this season of my life at this level that I'm playing at.
So people like to use the word busy. I think it's one of the ugliest 4-letter words, busy. And that's like a construct that doesn't really exist. Busy. What do you tell people that say, "Oh, I'm too busy," and versus being productive?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. Why do you think busy is the ugly word? The ugliest.
Because it's really, well, I guess when somebody's asking somebody about something and they go, "Oh, I'm too busy," because the reality is they have priorities, and instead of hurting someone's feelings and saying, "Oh, I'm too busy for you," or "too busy for that," or "too busy," the reality is, if I gave you $1 million to get that done, suddenly you wouldn't be busy, or you would bring that to a different level.
You prioritize it. Yeah.
How do you give people a reality check?
How do you disrupt that chisnet?
Chisnet.
Chisnet.
Go.
Ready, go. Perform. Okay, so I actually did. So I'll do. I've recently this year, as I've been pivoting my own business, as I've been pivoting my own business, what I've been doing is I've been offering, so people that host their own masterminds, I've been coming in and doing like workshops and webinars for like groups of like 20 plus. And one of the groups, and I think there was like one female in there, very successful men in the group. We were having conversation on this. And what it came down to is we prioritize what we value. So remember we talked about getting back to the core of something. There's always a byproduct and a layer behind something on a subconscious level. So we become busy, number one, because either some people literally are so busy because they lack structure and they're operating in chaos. Structure equals order, but you can also so when you understand even our high-end achievers' personality traits, there's a rebellious side. So when you understand, and what do we crave? We crave freedom. That's why we work so hard. That's why we want to perform so well, because we're doing it for the outcome of some form of freedom, some form of liberation, some form of like time freedom, money freedom, whatever you want to say. And when we get back to that, the busyness stems from probably like a lack of structure or order. When you're saying structure equals order, no structure equals chaos. Sometimes that is the case for people. They literally just do not know how to manage their time, which is a huge pain point, surprisingly, for high-end achievers and elite entrepreneurs. Time management is such a huge, huge thing. But most importantly, what I realized on a subconscious level of this, getting back to the self-sabotage, is that most people don't understand what they even value. And I asked, I was like, well, I started off the mastermind, I was like, what do you guys like value the most? Why do you work so hard? I'm like, I value my family. I value a lot of, I think majority of it was like family. Not one person said I value myself. I value, my growth. I value and so of course you're going to be pouring from an empty cup. You're going to put yourself on the back burner. You're going to, one of my favorite quotes is by Katie Reed. She says, self-care is giving the world the best of you, and everything you're doing the best of you versus what's left of you. And so when you understand, we prioritize what we value. How are you going to know what to prioritize if your values aren't even set in stone?
That's fantastic. I mean, a lot of times I'll say you got to take care. Everybody wants, the slogan that was going around in 2020 was, you wear a mask for me, I'll wear one for you. And I used to combat that with, well, you would manage my bank account if I managed yours. And I go, you have to.
That's a good one.
I take care of me so I can be there for you. If I'm always worried about you, then I'm left sick. So,
Mhm.
it's like I'll take care of me so I can be healthy there and then take care of you. So, is that the kind of same lines you're talking about?
Yeah, it's like the plane. Like, how are you gonna help other people on a plane going down if you run out of air? You're dead. You're on the ground. You need help.
I like that.
Perfect.
Terry,
I
how
mean,
come you
that's
never shared
literally
that?
every time you fly.
Yeah, that was good, Terry. What about the bank account
Yeah, that
metaphor?
was really good.
I never
Everybody's so
heard that
stingy
before.
about their money. You better
Yeah,
tell me, like, manage my bank account. I could barely
yeah.
manage my own, let alone letting
Right, right.
somebody else manage it.
Right,
That's
right.
good. Tanya, we're going to move into a more exciting question and answer. We call it the rapid fire question and answers. I'm going to ask you a
Go.
question. There's 5 of them.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's how it's going to work.
There you
And
go.
you're going to give me a quick answer if you can, but I will tell you that Terry and I end up you'll say
Taking
something
over.
interesting and we drag you off
Taking
the
over.
track and start asking you to elaborate on that answer. So let's,
All
the
right.
goal
Well,
is to
now
make
I
it
know the
rapid
ground
fire.
rules. I'm gonna keep you guys focused. I'm just gonna be like this. Next.
Next.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
go like
right,
that.
right.
Go.
Go. All right, ready?
Go.
Ready? Question number 1. If you could go back in time and meet one person, who would it be and what is the first thing you would ask them?
God.
Go. What? Oh, God.
Who? Go.
Yeah.
I'm going straight to source, you guys. Like,
I got you. Wow, that's
go,
great. All
God.
right.
God, go.
All right.
Go, God, go.
Go, God. There it is. There it is. Oh
Oh,
my God.
Spencer.
Yeah. Yeah. Question number 2.
Wait. What would you ask him?
Ah,
How do I
go.
stay connected all the time to you?
Hmm.
Wow, I like that.
Wow. That is
Hmm.
pretty cool. Question number 2. Are you ready? What is the best reward and incentive to motivate one's self?
God,
And
it
don't
just
say ice cream.
depends. Yeah, that's that's not a good question.
Okay.
A fast
Reword it.
question because there's so many different layers to that question.
All right.
We're gonna
Reword the
have to
question
we're
then.
gonna have to pass on that if you want a quick
Okay.
answer.
All right, we'll put it at the end, and then you can elaborate. How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
All right. All right. We'll remove that question. Question number 3. What's the craziest thing that's happened to you on rollerblades?
Oh my God, it's so recent. These freaking little dog. You almost got me to curse because it was recent.
You can.
It was last month. I'm working on operating from my higher self, okay? My higher self doesn't curse. So these little freaking dogs, they attack. I've gotten bit on my calf. Only the little dogs that like they bite. And then I'm like, what do I do? So I just like keep going and I'm like a little blood on my like calf. Yeah, it's like traumatic. So now I'm literally traumatized doing my own tapping as I'm blading, like from these little podos. Yeah, that was a little too long of
Wow.
elaboration. But yeah, I've
No,
been attacked twice by the little dogs. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
there's question 3B. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
What's the craziest thing that's happened to you during your Latin dance classes?
Classes or social dancing? Because I
Oh,
haven't taken classes in a long time.
okay, so no, I meant the the social dancing thing. The
It's not really crazy because, like I said, energy is a lot stronger than words. And so I carry myself like with healthy boundaries.
hmm,
But I did recently, people get confused because the dance world is an illusion. And I think everybody lives in their own world with their own illusions. But the dance world can become like confusing if you don't understand that the intention is dance And so sometimes people will, especially being a woman, confuse your kindness or like eye contact, which is the core of dance, and posture and body language as a sign. And so I was asked out to go for a drink, and I said, no, thank you, I don't drink. Like, do you want to go for it? Like 3 times I said, and I just stopped. I said, no. And so then it was, I know it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was like, no. But I think at the same, like, that's the most recent, it's nothing crazy. I mean, you get stepped on, it's like bumper cars there, like you get stepped on, but I mean, I go to real salsa places, so there's some big events coming up too. I'm not getting paid for them, so I'm not going to promote them. Just in case you guys come at me for sponsorship, unless you paying.
Yeah. There you go. I appreciate that.
Question number 4. What is your favorite movie that you feel is underrated?
Oh, man. You're going to love this one. But it's a little gory, so brace yourself. The Power of the Heart. And it's on Gaia.
Oh, why is it gory?
I haven't seen it. The beginning. Yes, you have seen it. You were like, oh, have you seen The Power of the Heart?
Oh, my God.
You have seen it.
It's been a long time. I was waiting for you to say 300. Or something. That's gory.
Oh, no. The beginning of it was almost like that. It was like he was slandering people, and then it was really practically what we talked about, the battle of two wolves, of evil and good inside of us, inside of all of us. And so the movie started off with slaughtering people.
I'm into that. Okay, that's good.
You saw the movie though, because you
messaged me about
it.
We'll have to talk about Spencer's brainwaves, off
air. They're off.
He's in performance mode, so he blocks a lot of things out in performance.
Go. Last one, question number 5. If we were to go into your room, what book do you have on your nightstand?
I've got like 5 books. The one that I'm right now currently committed to, because I have rules for myself, is the heck is it called? How did I forget? I'm reading like 2 books, but one of them is in here. One is Supernatural with Dr. Joe Dispenza, but that's like a reread one. And Think and Grow Rich, the updated version, is in there. And then I've got a few books in there, but they're mostly spiritual. Like anything in my room, because I do believe in feng shui energy, and anything in my room is more spiritual or self-development. Business books are outside in the living room on the bookshelf, so I keep them more categorized based on the energy of the room. As I mentioned, I want to start reading something to start waking me up. So everything in my room is like more spiritual, and in the office spaces, other stuff. But yeah.
All right. That was good. I would like to go back to question number 2 about the best.
That's his tail.
It's my tail. Yeah, no, it's Coco, my dog.
Aww.
You know Coco. And
I thought you were cueing me, like hurry up.
No, that's her tail. Question number 2 is going back to about the best rewards and incentives to motivate oneself. I mean, that deserves a little more concentration and focus, and giving the audience maybe something that they could use to incentivize.
So okay, perfect. One of my favorites, is I do teach this in one of my courses, is leveraging off of motivation. And so incentivizing and bribing yourself is so critical, especially because motivation is like very like short-lived, and it's like on and off. So I use a bribing system, and for other people too, because I know this is for other people, is breaking it down into the month, or breaking it to like, what are your daily bribes? Maybe it's just to take an hour break and go to the beach for an hour, or to like read. Like sometimes just giving a break is a reward in itself, because we're so hard on ourselves. So what would be like a daily thing, a daily bribe? And what would be like a weekly bribe? What would be a monthly reward? And then what would be a quarterly and a yearly? So depending on number one, you can categorize it into budget of how much money you want to spend, or you could budget it on time. A lot of things don't cost money, but they do cost time, which time could cost money. So you have to decide where do you want a time budget or do you want a money budget, and both, and which like things, the bigger the things, like the more you have to earn it. So when you do earn it, even if you can buy it tomorrow, I want to get a new pair of sneakers, there's a certain criteria of workflow that I need to get done in order to, like, that's like my carrot for me to get it done. And then I can go buy the sneakers. Even though I can buy them today, I have to earn them. So that's where that motivation comes into placement based on how I'm categorizing it.
Leveraging yourself.
Perfect. You know, and on that kind of that topic, you have like this internal GPS to set goals and that you just talked about. How do you stop from being so goal oriented that you burn out? So how do you balance that goals and versus burnout?
Yeah, well, goals, if we get like super clear on goals, because I had to heal that relationship with that word for a while. Goals is just like, what do I really want? If there were no, if like, what do I really want? What do you really want with no backup goals? Like, if backup goals didn't exist, what do you truly want? Not what you think you're capable of, but what do you want? Just for a moment, removing everything. And then scheduling your workouts, scheduling your meditation, scheduling if you want to, like I live in Miami, so beaches are non-negotiable. Like beach for me once a week is a non-negotiable. Like those self-care brackets prevent burnout. Like they really, really do. So I like to break even my days into sprints. But in order to sprint, I have to be fully charged and operating at peak performance to run as fast as I can, even within the day.
I know we've known each other for a long time, but I feel like some of the answers you gave were like, oh my God, she's talking to me. And that's
I am.
that you go. And I really think that what you just said just now is much more profound than I think most people would imagine. I mean, you like I'll sit at the desk for hours and get things done, and then my brain doesn't fire off as well as it did, 2 hours ago. And maybe I'll take a break or something like that, but it's not enough. And I think what you had just said about recharging so you could be fresh, with ideas and innovation and answers to questions.
I did that yesterday. I was we talked about the beginning of the conversation, blocked. I was blocked because I'm writing my book. And I have to do also my assistant sent me all this stuff to like edit a funnel that we're building out for one of the courses. And I just I couldn't read it anymore. And I was like, I had to come back to my heart. And I was like, what do you need right now to perform? What do you need? There's a difference between what I want. I want to get this done. I want to. But what do I need to get this done? And I always come back to the heart because your heart is truth. And so I was like, I need to go to the beach for just 30 minutes. So I go to the beach, I come back, I'm like,
yeah.
Just that, giving yourself permission to have a break that was a sprint. I took a break, I recharged, but this is a part of self-mastery, knowing thyself. What do I need? I know my needs and wants. I know them very well. I know what I need for that situation, in that case. Then the next question is the power of free will. Am I doing it? Because you can know and not do. There's a difference.
That's awesome.
Tanya, we probably have 1,000 other questions.
I thought you were saying if I had $1,000.
$1,000. Yeah.
I'll take that too. We Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Did you ever see that? That was a Reels, by the way. Did you see it? You guys didn't see that. That's why. I thought it was hilarious.
I got to see what you're talking
I'll
about.
send it to you. Take Venmo, PayPal, Cash App.
And then send him also the link to the movie that he saw that he's never seen before.
Shut up. All right. Never mind.
You'll know, and then you're going to go back and look at it, and you're going to be like, you're going to do this.
I love that.
See that movie, and that was a great movie because I texted her, that was a great movie, you should watch it.
I can't wait.
All right. Final gift of advice that you would like to leave the listeners with, as well as me.
Yeah.
What do you?
Well, this
Any
is
thought?
how I lead. I lead my day. This is how my greatest asset is just win the day. Just
Win the
win
day?
today. And I focus
Win
on the
today.
power of the word today because the word today carries so much power where you actually feel capable. And then trusting yourself that you know that you're able to make the right decisions just for today. So just win
Oh,
today.
that is great. I'm telling you know what's for as long as I've known you and as much as we've talked in the past, this was the juice, man. You did you. Very,
Well, because
thank you.
when you see me, like we're just talking about like a bunch of nothing. I don't know. We talk about a lot of stuff, but typically, I mean, you have me in performance mode. You don't. When I'm over there, I'm just like, yeah. But here, it's game time. So
Go.
I'm very impressed. You
go.
definitely go.
Thank you
Oh,
so much for your time.
Thank you.
You were a delight. I love the picture behind you, by the way. And
Thank you.
yeah,
It's the
yeah,
tree of life.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Hmm.
So, and you're a
yeah.
beautiful soul. So, thank you
Thank you.
for being part of our show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
And I can tell you and my buddy here are good friends. So he's a delight too, and I can see why you guys are attracted. So thank you for everything you bring to the table.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
having me, you
Tanya.
guys.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin' Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at Crackin' Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.